Guys, I've just read a very heartbreaking article where the widow of Robin Williams, whose name is Susan Schneider, was saying how Robin was, quote, drowning in his symptoms before he took his own life without knowing what was wrong with him. Ultimately, he was diagnosed after death with having the disease, I think it was called Lewy body dementia, which mimics Parkinson's disease. Um, she talks about how her husband's, quote, larger than life spirit was crushed by skyrocketing fear and anxiety, a continuous tremor in his left hand, a shuffling walking gait, terrible insomnia, and a loss of basic reasoning and memory. She mentions while filming the movie A Night at the Museum 3, quote, Robin was having trouble remembering even one line for his scenes, while just 3 years prior, he had played in a full 5-month season of the Broadway production Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, often doing 2 shows a day with hundreds of lines and not one mistake. This loss of memory and inability to control his anxiety was devastating to him. As I said, doctors had only discovered that Robin had been suffering from that rare brain disease, Lewy body dementia, just after he had passed away in August of 2014, when he took his life at the age of 63. Quote, she says, how I wish he could have known while he was struggling that it was not a weakness in his heart, spirit, or character. Schneider, who is campaigning to raise awareness of the disease, details her husband's 10-month struggle to discover the root of his neurological and physiological problems. The star's third wife said the disease robbed her husband of his sanity. He became increasingly frustrated and concerned at his inability to remember his lines. He could not sleep and suffered paranoia and digestive problems and impaired thinking. Robin was losing his mind and he was aware of it, she says. Can you imagine the pain he felt as he experienced himself disintegrating, and not from something he would ever know the name of or understood? She says that his symptoms were so severe that the star often spoke about wanting to just reboot his brain. He underwent numerous doctor appointments, tests, and scans in an effort to find the cause. She says everything came back negative except for high cortisol levels. She spoke about how he was growing weary in the weeks prior to his suicide. The Parkinsonian mask was ever present. When those who are listening wondering what that means the Parkinsonian mask, which is very prominent in many people who suffer from Parkinson's. Of course, that was notably seen in the late Muhammad Ali, that face where it's constantly like one, it's like lack of facial expression. But the Parkinsonian mask was ever present, and his voice was weakened. His left hand tremor was continuous now, and he had a slow shuffling gait. He hated that he could not find the words he wanted in conversations. He would thrash at night and still had terrible insomnia. At times he would find himself stuck in a frozen stance, unable to move and frustrated when he came out of it. She said that he was beginning to have trouble with visual and spatial abilities in the way of judging distance and depth. His loss of basic reasoning just added to his growing confusion. She believed toward the very end that her husband was keeping the true depth of his symptoms, including hallucinations, away from her knowledge. And it's very sad to know that a guy that was as brilliant as Robin Williams was in his prime was deteriorating this much before he died. And as a person who cared for a loved one and watched them deteriorate from a robust 240-pound man to a skeletal 110-pound figure, I know how devastating it is to see a disease rob you of a loved one. And I really feel for her and I really wish that she could find comfort in the fact that in her husband's tragic passing, him being probably the most prominent person to have Lewy body dementia. Another person I recall having a disease as well was the late Estelle Getty, who played the mother, the grandmother figure or the mother figure on Golden Girls. When you have prominent people like that have the disease, you can at least bring attention to this disease. You put a face to the disease, and I hope that attention can be brought to this rare brain disease and more awareness of the signs and symptoms, so that maybe someone else who has this problem at least knows what they're dealing with, and you won't go to the point where you're driven to madness as Robin was at the very end. And I just found this very painful to read, and I just wanted to share this with you guys. It's Robin Williams is one of the greats, and he'll always be missed.